Did you know goldenrod makes an excellent tea?
Happy birthday to me. Happy birthday, dear Aaron.
You are a sad, strange little man, and you have my pity.
Or what's inside. You suck. Finally, we're going to reveal the... Hey everybody, welcome back to Tomic's veteran of the comic book industry for 30 years I'm a writer, I'm an artist, and this sucks.
She cooks nothing but chuck wagons, stew, and her name is Minerva. Ouch! She's the flower of Gower Gulch.
Don't start! We haven't left yet!
You can set your clock by me, your watch. You can, because I am always here, even on holiday weekends. I'm here. Welcome to Aaron Live. I am, of course, Aaron, and thankfully, thank God, I am still alive. So anyway, got an interesting show. I've started looking at movies and things. I used to be a huge movie goer, and I just sort of lost interest. And but recently I've been this whole thing, I don't know if you guys know this or not, but they have like these streaming services and things you can get on your TV, and you can like get movies that maybe you missed in the theater. Anyway, I just saw another one that I had never seen before, which is pretty remarkable, that I had not seen the Donner cut of Superman 2. So I actually watched that with my dear old mother, and she kept going, "What'd they say? What'd they say?" And I, to fill her in. But other than that, it was very interesting, and I want to talk a little bit about that today, among other things. I have my Garbage Man shirt on, so ready to go. I guess one of the things I'll start off with is apparently Peter David passed away. A very prolific and good. Just because you're prolific doesn't mean you're good, but Peter David was a very good comic book writer. I worked on a couple of projects with him. Captain Marvel, I think I did 3 issues that he wrote. I did maybe 4. I did, it seems to me I did one other thing with him that now I can't remember what it was. But I never met him. I'd get the script, draw the script, and never, I had never had any interaction with him, but the scripts were good. He was a very good writer. He's run on the Hulk with Dale Keown, was pretty much legendary, really good stuff for the most part. And we always hate to see, someone pass away so young, 68. And then, somebody who's a really good talent, someone who's contributed a ton to the industry. It's very sad, but such is the great circle of life, I'm afraid. But anyway, so I don't have any personal stories or anything to share because, like I said, I didn't know him. I don't think I ever actually met him in person. But there you go. A sad day nonetheless. So, okay. Let's let's move out of that gear and try and pick things up here and just see where the road takes us. Repairman Jack is here. He says, Aaron, you got to defeat John tomorrow on Kings. Maybe add an unexpected evil twist. I don't even know if I'm going to be on Kings tomorrow. I'm so upset about losing that. That was the first time I lost on Kings. I was 3 for 3, and now I'm 3-1. And I still think I won. But, it's just the way it goes. That's just the way it goes. And so we'll see. We will see. Mark Pengren is here. Sequential Artist is here. He says, rest in peace, Peter David. Among his best works were Star Trek novel, Vendetta, original series, Doomsday Machine versus the Borg. Okay. Yeah, I know he wrote a lot of Trek. I didn't. Maybe was that the other thing I worked on with Star Trek with him? I don't remember. Laykick is here because Laykick is almost always here. Corum is joining us. The Geek Easy. MPC Oasis. Says, you fatties need to get healthy and stop dying early. I started working out 3 weeks ago, and I have not missed a day in 3 weeks. So trying to get back in shape. Randy House sending his condolences out to Peter David. Michelle Bowers is here. Corey Landis. Randy Howell, all the way from Canada. Gen X Catholic is joining us. Pity Ma. And let's see, there's Andy Dalloff. Jimmy Owens. Hey, Jimmy, thanks for joining us. Ink on Paper. She says, Pity Ma says, love that beautiful t-shirt. So glad I have one. Garbage Man, hail. Absolutely. Thank you. Marcus Killer Group, purveyor of all things pop culture knowledge, is joining us. Sanford S. Williams. Was he on Sanford and Son? I don't think so. Was he? I don't think so. Okay. There we go. Kellraiser is joining us as well. Thank you all. I'm looking around to see if I brought anything up to eat. I didn't. Because how can you get fit if you're eating sugar all the time? I still haven't been able to answer that question. But no snack today. My apologies out to those of you who are snacking at home. I don't begrudge you snacking just because I'm not snacking, because let's face it, if I had been aware, if I had been focused, I would have a snack up here right now, but I don't. So I'm going to, let's see, do I have maybe one of these?
Drink. Good.
I don't have drink. I have water in my trusty Nebraska canteen. Filtered too. If I may implore all of you for just a moment, to heed this public service announcement. That's right. Like and subscribe. Do it now. I don't do that very well, but yeah, we're looking to grow. We're looking to become a force, and I can't do it without your numbers. So I appreciate it if you guys would do that. All righty. Randy Hall says, snack on carrots. I save those for my dog. Corey Landis, sugar gives you energy for the workout. I work out at Planet Fitness because only one reason, because it's cheap. But I go in there and they have all these signs up like, don't be loud, don't be sweaty, and I'm just like, come on, man, take me to a real gym. But anyway, like I said, they're affordable, and they do have these buckets of Tootsie Rolls that you can, little tiny Tootsie Rolls. You kind of, and I go in like at 7:30, 8 o'clock in the morning now, and I'm like, so I take a little Tootsie Roll, give me a little sugar jolt there to kind of get up to speed before I get on the old treadmill and power walk for 2 miles and then go lift, and that's pretty much it. Am I really? Is Andy tied me? Is that really? I'm going to go check right now because I can't believe it's true. Okay, let's see. I'm at, oh, look, there I am live. I'm still at 4.19K. Andy Smith. Let's just see what Andy's up to. He's at 4.19K. How is that possible? Man. I quit. I'm done. I'm done on YouTube. I'm going to go become a Tibetan monk. I don't know. Isn't that where Batman trained? Tibet? Maybe I'll come back as Batman. I'll be like the older Batman from Dark Knight Returns. See, Andy has figured out how to set up his channel so that he gets more hits and more, and I think he's doing things obviously that I'm not doing that's garnering more attention. But, I've got only so much time, and to put into YouTubing and becoming this YouTube phenomenon. And my number one priority is still taking care of my family and drawing comics. So this is like third priority. So it doesn't get the attention that it deserves. So congratulations to Andy. Now I got something else to be bitter about. Now I know he's doing how to draw videos and things like that actually help bring in a bigger fan base, but that requires extra effort on my part. Is it even possible for me to put more effort? I don't think so. Maybe I will. Yeah, Art of Roy agrees. It's a shorts. No, of course I'm just kidding. Andy's a good friend of mine. I hope he does very well, just not better than me. Okay, enough of that. So let's take a look at today's Frazetta for the day. I kind of feel like that painting should be called Big Booty on Venus. That's just me, though. You may have a different take. I also wonder, it doesn't say escape from Venus. It says escape on Venus. Now, I haven't read any of the Venus Edgar Rice Burroughs books, admittedly. I have not. I've read the Mars ones, but I haven't read the Venus. And I do want to read them. Carson of Venus. My feeling is, having read some of the Pellucidar stuff and, of course, reading John Carter, they're fairly similar, just different location. And but I am kind of curious, if you're escaping, what are you escaping from while you're still on Venus? So, but anyway, that was a heck of a painting. And enjoyed it very much. I actually really like that tiger thing in the background. It's very, very cool. But there you go. Sean Allen for £2. That means he lives across the pond. Can we get Aaron's top 50 books segment? Like books? I don't even know that I've read 50 books in my entire life. That's a good question, though. My top 50 books. I give you my top 50 comic books, but could I give you my top 50 books? I've read a few Doc Savage books. I read Catcher in the Rye in high school. I read Fahrenheit 451 in high school. 50 books. Whew. sweating just thinking about it. Stealth X5 for $2. Hello. Thank you, Stealth. Appreciate it very much. Oh, from my shelves. Well, then that's something different because 97% of my books either have to do with art, comics, or movies. So it'd be the Lopresti Library Collection. Hey, okay, maybe I'll do that. That's not a bad idea. Andy Dolph says, I wouldn't escape that Venus. No, probably not. Pity Ma knows. There you go. She goes, I start my weekend on Sunday with Aaron and my work day with Graybeards. He's my number one must-see live. I'm going to assume that there's supposed to be a number one in there. Because if it was like, he's my number 3 must-see live, then I would be hurt. One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. Yeah, I read that too. I read Al Murik in high school. And for a science, I think it was just it might have been a science fiction class. I think it was actually. And where we just read science fiction books and then wrote reports on them. And I did a Robert E. Howard book called Al Murik, which was the name of this planet. And it was kind of a, Conan in space kind of thing, or Conan on this other planet. And so I went up there and I read I wrote my book report and I read it in front of the class. And there's so many weird character names. And, it's like, oh, and the Thongor did the Fing Fong and the Burn the Burr, and people in the class were just laughing at me. They thought I was making the crap up. It's like, this cannot actually be a book. And I'm like, no, I swear it's really a book. And these are the characters' names. So I was mocked for that. Even in a science fiction class, I was mocked for it. Actually, now that I think about it, I don't think it was a science fiction class. I think it was just a literature class where you read different books and wrote book reports. And I chose this Al Murik because if you guys remember, there was a magazine that Marvel put out called Epic Illustrated. And in one of the, over a series of issues, there was, and it might even been starting in the first one, I don't remember, but there was an adaptation of Al Murik by Tim Conrad. And it looked really interesting to me, reading the comics. So I got the book and I read the book. And I couldn't tell you for the life of me what it's about. Now I can't remember. But it did turn into a mocking book report. I think I got an A in the class, though. So, I didn't, I don't think I ever read any Lovecraft other than what was adapted in Eerie and Creepy magazine, like Cool Air and things like that. I did read O. Henry. We did a lot of short stories of O. Henry. And O. Henry had some really kind of weird, dark short stories. Very interesting stuff. Of course, who wrote Incident at Owl Creek? That was always an interesting one. I actually saw the movie, got to watch that in class. It was a short film. I think the only book I read, well, there's 2 books I read when I was in high school. The Frankenstein Diaries, which I still recommend. I absolutely love that book. And Jaws, the novelization, while I was in high school that I didn't have to read. I think those are the only 2 books I read. I probably read some Conan stuff and some John Carter. I probably read a little bit of that. But as far as just like true novels, I think those are the only 2. Although the Frankenstein Diaries, I don't even think is a novel. It's like supposedly the authentic diaries of Victor Frankenstein and his creation of the monster. And it has all these like little lab sketches or, like as a doctor, apparently he was a fairly talented illustrator too, Frankenstein was. And so he drew all these pictures of his experiments and different things and the monster and all this kind of, it's a great, great book. And I'm surprised no one's made a movie about it. So anyway, there was a story where this guy was caught in a traffic jam, a short story. and it was just intensely hot, and it turns out, make a long story short, it turns out he was in hell. That was hell, being stuck in a traffic jam on a 120-degree day with no air conditioning and the traffic just never moving. I always thought that was fairly entertaining because it kind of took you through this whole guy's thing. We got a little backstory. And then, of course, the kicker at the end is he's in hell. So I don't know. I can't remember the name of that book. Look at this. Andino Palazzo. No guest, as usual. You see, you're saying that I can't carry the show, and I think I can. I'm going to do it anyway. So whether I can or not. Because you know why? Because it's a lot easier to do this when I don't have a guest. Because I have a guest, I got to prepare questions. I can just kind of ramble on, and that's kind of what I do. Anyway, we're going to do Creator's Corner here in a few minutes. So don't get too excited. We will have somebody on here in a minute to kind of check out their campaign. And it's a very interesting campaign because it's not the usual comic book thing. So Sean Allen says Conan on vacation. Of course, he's referring to Elmeric. Maybe that's right. Hey, let's see here. The Hound. Who wrote it? I've seen The Hound of the Baskervilles, but it's Sherlock Holmes. Past Master Dan says Houston traffic in the summer. People are now giving me their horror stories on the freeways. I used to run Randy Howell says, I had it happen to me in my student days. I ran my truck out of gas so many times in LA because I never had any money. So I would try to squeak out, when it hits empty, you go, okay, when it hits empty, I've got 3 gallons left, or I've got 1 gallon left. And how many miles is that? And you'd watch the speedometer, and I ran it out a few times, not quite making it to the gas station. But, that's part of college life, isn't it? So, anywho, I went to the art supply store the other day, and I saw these Winsor Newton black pens. Now, I just wanted to try them because I'm always looking for the next really good pen. Now it says it's black pigment ink, so it's dark, water resistant, which of course means it's not exactly waterproof, and then non-fading. So I got a set of these. I haven't tried them out yet, but I'll probably try them out on graybeards, and we shall see what. I didn't even look at the tip. That's how dumb I am. Interesting. So I don't know. I like microns, but they get gray when you erase over the top of them. They're not black. And these Zig pens are really black, but they're not 100% waterproof either. These things, or the Kuretake, excuse me, or Kurosaki or Kawasaki, these zebra pens. And I also, because I'm a colossal dummy, I don't know why I didn't think of this, but so I got this graphite transfer paper. And for some reason, I didn't even know they made this. I would sit here when I wanted to transfer a drawing, like let's say you're working on a splash page, which happens to me quite often. And then you work it and it's not working. So you redraw it or whatever on the page, and you ruin the paper, right? So you can't go in and actually use it as the final artwork. So you light table the part of it that you liked onto another board, basically trace it on a light table and then clean it up and then ink it, right? So I do that all the time. Now, I've also had drawings that I've done, like you'll see David Williams does this all the time. He'll do a pencil drawing on a real thin sheet of like 20-pound copy paper, and then transfer it onto a finished board to then ink and paint or whatever he's going to do with it. And I'm like, what are you using to transfer your drawings? And he's like, well, it's graphite transfer paper. And I'm like, now granted, I've been in the industry for 35 plus years. And I say, they make that? Of course they make it. What kind of an idiot am I? So I went and picked up some of this just so I'd have it. If I needed to, it becomes problematic to use the light table if you're transferring onto a really heavy board, because you can't really see through it even with the light underneath it. So, you know, I used to like do oil paintings and stuff. I would sit here and do, like, I do the drawing, and then I'd take a sheet of tracing paper, and then I would cover the back of it with pencil lead, right, and then put it underneath it and trace it onto the canvas. Why it never occurred to me to go buy some of this stuff, or that it even existed, is beyond me. Yeah, there's Brohawk right there. So he informed me of this incredible miracle thing that we like to call graphite paper. Wow. Yeah, but see, I used to do that too. But then it's like you still have to rub the pencil on there. If you buy graphite paper, you don't have to do any. You just put it in there, man, and go. So, all right, you guys demanded a guest. You demanded a voice other than mine. Well, I'm going to give it to you right now. We do this occasionally when someone contacts me and has an interesting project that they're looking for a little love, and this is definitely an interesting project. So we're going to do a little Creator's Corner now. So hold on to your seats. That's the intro, baby. Let me welcome in a friend of the show. He's always in the chat offering us interesting commentary, but now he's going to give us interesting commentary live. Everybody welcome Bill Wiest. Hey, Bill.
Hey, everyone.
All right. So you
very
contacted
surreal.
me and you said, I got a project, Aaron. Can I get a little notification? I said, hey, come on, let's talk about it. So I looked at it. I thought it was really, really cool. So there's a couple things. We'll get to it in a second. But you had mentioned a couple names of people you worked with or worked under or studied under or whatever. And I, off the top of my head, one of them was Steve Rude, right? You mentioned that. And who was the other one that I was like, oh, I didn't know you knew him.
Greg Manchez.
Okay.
He, yeah, he's well, it seems pretentious to call him a mentor of mine, but he's a mentor of mine. He's a very nice fella that I met about a dozen years ago at a IMC, an Illustrator Masterclass workshop in Amherst.
Yeah.
And as soon as I saw his stuff, it just spoke to me. That's why I told him. I met him on a stairwell during this week-long class that they had at Amherst, and just told him that his stuff, his chunky line work, everything about it really spoke to me. And so I got to know him over that week, but then I took a semester class with him, a course that he offers online. It's real limited, but boy, they're fantastic courses. They still offer them through a thing called Smart Class.
I wouldn't know anything about that. When it has smart in it, I usually check out. But so you're not only an artist, but you're a writer as well.
Mm-hmm.
And you've put together, which is essentially a prose book, but it's illustrated, which, you know, correct me if I'm wrong, I don't really spend much time in the book world, as I was lamenting earlier in the show. But that seems very old school to me. Is that stuff still being done at all? I mean, I know it is in boutique ways, you know, boutique publishing and stuff, but do we see illustrated books that often anymore?
Yeah, we do. I actually, on Weiss Lore, I review a lot of middle grade. When I first started this project, I realized the only middle grade that I read was The Three Investigators. I think that was the last time I read a middle grade novel. You know,
I did read those. I did those. Wasn't that was that the Alfred Hitchcock Presents? Or was that? Yeah,
that's what drew me in. Alfred Hitchcock.
Yeah.
That's all I needed.
Okay, so this is the book you're doing. Let me just go ahead and bring it up. You can talk about. We'll talk about it here. There it is. So this is the mystery of a Nubbins. Is that correct?
Mystery of A. Nubbins. Yep.
A. Nubbins.
Yep.
Okay, so this is a MG, meaning does that mean middle grade?
Yeah, middle grade. Okay. It's for ages 8 through 12, or if you're like me, I read middle grade. There's something about middle grade. It's not like YA, which is older teenage angsty type of novels. Middle grade, you just have a lot of adventure, imagination, good characterization. That to me is middle grade. And yeah, I love it. I love portal fantasy. This is kind of a low fantasy. It's not like high fantasy. It's more like Chronicles of Narnia, stuff like this.
Well, give us a little rundown here on the story. We see right there. It says hobgoblins are not real. So what are we talking about here?
Well, it's about these two brothers. Actually, on my I've got a painting of them up here. Oh yeah, you can still see me.
Yeah.
It's Peter and Andrew, and they're building a fort, and they come across this kid who attacks them, and then they become very curious who this kid is, or if he is even a kid, and trying to solve this mystery of who this kid is, and if maybe he's more than a kid, draws them into this strange other world, and it also divides the brothers. And so it's really kind of a story about the brothers as much as the mystery of who this kid is.
So I'm going to assume, and it looks like it right here. So you have like little, are you go in black and white chapter heading illustrations, and then you have filtered color illustrations in with that.
Yeah. Yep. There's 14 full color oil paintings that will be plates throughout the book. And then every chapter has a black and white illustration, pen and ink. Actually, I did those over the course of this last Inktober. I like participating in Inktober. So just every night I did a chapter heading, just knocked them out. I thought, okay, I got to get these done. That's the best way to do it.
That is so true. When I was working on my book years ago, Fantastical Creatures, I'd have to take my son to swimming practice, and rather than sit there for an hour and a half, I would bring my notebook and I would just start writing. These stories, because I had to come up with different creatures and write-ups for the different things. And it was kind of like maximizing that what otherwise would be downtime and making it productive, not just like in your sketchbook, but actually doing something towards a specific project. Yeah. And it's amazing how quickly you can get stuff done when you start doing that.
Yeah. Well, that's why I need to start doing on my next project. I've got your Fantastical Creatures. One of the reasons I bought that book is I thought, oh, this is something like I want to do. So let's see how I did it.
You see, and then don't make the same mistakes I did.
You learn for everything. Yeah.
Now,
But no, this is kind of old school in that what gave me the inspiration for it was when I moved to Pennsylvania, my wife and we went to Brandywine Museum, and we saw, NCYS work. And when I stood in front of, that work, I thought, I want to do something like this. I've dabbled in comics, self-published, and I'm a designer by trade. That's my day job. But I've always, done portraiture, things like that. But I felt like an illustrated novel is something that can kind of last. I feel like it's something, whether anybody buys it or not, it's something I'd want to have.
Right.
So that was the point of it.
Well, and this is going to be a hardcover, obviously, it looks like.
Yeah. This is a sample I got here.
Your hands here. Let me make you big here so we can see that better. Yeah. Hang on. There you go.
It's 333 pages of text, 14 illustrations like this.
So is it all? Is this a sampler, or is it already gone to press at this point, and you have copies?
Well, I'm going to print it through a place called Book Vault. At least that's the plan as of right now. I'm still trying to work out a couple little details as far as the quality issues. You know, I'm always just concerned. I want it to be the best it can be.
Right. Absolutely.
But the nice thing about Book Vault is, you know, I was able to. Their proof is essentially a copy. You're ordering them a copy, and it's a print on demand place. And yet it's based in UK, so you know they can do all these spiffy things that would cost a lot over here for, you know, not nearly as much, like the end papers, you know, the jacket.
That really looks nice. I'm
marker.
amazed at how far digital printing has come in just such a short period of time.
Yeah,
it's almost, you can't tell the difference really between digital and offset anymore.
that's my goal, is to make sure that you can't tell the difference. I want it to be
well. And it's more affordable, right? So if you're doing small print run stuff, it's way more affordable to do that. And if you can get like super high quality, then why not?
Right. Oh yeah. And everybody I show this to. I work, my day job is a book designer. I showed it to the senior designer, and yeah, he was impressed with the book as well, with the quality. I've done things, you know, through Amazon before, self-published through them, through Ingram Spark, and so far the quality that I'm seeing in the proofs I've got are good. And these are the books that will be coming, you know, off the press. So they do have one printer here in the US. And so I've got 2 volumes. The one I'm showing here is the bespoke. It's the one I'm spending the most time trying to get the details right. The other is an essential. It could be printed here in the US. So I can get those costs even cheaper because I don't have to deal with shipping. I can also turn them out quicker. They can turn that around in like 2 weeks. The bespoke takes like a month. so now, those are all things I'm thinking about now as a campaign.
Right. Now, if you do book design work, like professionally, right?
Yeah.
So does that give you any in with any publishers? Have you ever thought of taking like this book or maybe your next book to say a big publisher so you can get bigger distribution, or would you just rather not deal with the headache that I dealt with when I did it?
I'm always willing. I want this book to be seen. I want it to be out, you know, sell as many as I can. And, you know, if I can sell it to a big publisher, that'd be good. I work for a small kind of boutique publisher. They deal with textbooks, you know, it's for Christian schools. It's and also homeschoolers, things like that, charter schools. So I got hired on to do science books. They realized I could do a little bit of illustration. It needed a little illustration, plus I knew a little bit about design. So it's been a good fit. But I've always got to be doing this other thing. It's not enough to be drawing amoebas, you know.
No, I get that. So I mean, it's no easy task to write a novelization, even, you know, regardless of what age group it's for. And I always admire guys that do that, because I've never even attempted that. And because it feels so daunting.
Well, it is.
Do you look at yourself as a writer or an illustrator that writes a little bit, or a writer that illustrates a little bit? I mean, or how would you categorize yourself?
I'm just a jack of all trades. I don't know. It's
it's master of none. That's me, baby.
That's me. No, well, you know, I worked for a newspaper for 12 years in Louisville, and at that job, I just got used to. I was trying to make money any way I could, and so they hired me on as a designer, and plus I could illustrate. So they had a middle grade column that came out every week called For Your Info, and so I did illustrations, and I laid out that page every week, and then it was only about a month into it, I'm like, who writes these things anyway? So I went up to the editor and just pitched him some ideas, and we got to be friends. His name's Bill Wolf. He's gone on to be a middle grade children's book author. In fact, he retired from there. He's William B. Wolf, a fantastic name for a children's book author. But he writes a really good series about Mark Twain. Well, the first one's about Mark Twain. Anyway, but that he really helped with the writing, you know, because I told him I could give him samples, and he's just like, just give me what you have, I'll work with it. So it was it was an unbelievable opportunity. I learned a lot as he, you know, tore apart my stories and put them back together again. So, and then on this book, you know, again, I don't want it to just be a self-published thing, like, you know, like a vanity project. I'm friends with a lot of editors since I'm in publishing, and so a lot of my friends looked at it. I'm real. In fact, I named some of them at the end of the book, but in particular, there was a mentorship program offered through Highlights, and so I got to team up with Laura Parnham. Laura Parnham's an editor, and she came out with, she wrote her first book, Peril at Price Manor, a couple of years ago, and she's got another book coming out this summer. But Laura was just a fantastic mentor. She was able to look at my story. She never changed it, but she was able to say, you know, there's a character arc here that maybe you can develop a little bit more, you know, things like that.
Mm-hmm.
And it just, it didn't change the story, but it just improved it so significantly.
Right.
And so
it's nice to have access to people like that actually know what they're doing and can give you, they're not just there to criticize you for recreation. They're there to actually help you improve your product. So that's excellent. You've had those opportunities. So did you go to, I mean, you did talk about, you know, the art classes and stuff, but did you actually go to school for art and design?
I was on my way, man. I had a teacher in high school that wrote me a note. As far as mentors go, he was the best. His name, and I'm not making this up, was Noble Heart. That was his name, Noble Heart.
Really?
Yeah, I loved it. But he gave me this advice. He said that your interest and your effort will be just as important to you as your talent. And I think he was saying I was lazy. You know, you gotta stay focused. But so I was on my way, but then I decided I entered into this Bible. I entered into these Bible studies, and all of a sudden, what I thought was my main interest, which was art, I decided I wanted to preach and become a minister.
Mm-hmm.
Just suddenly, when I was about 18 years old, and so my direction changed. I became a minister I went to school to be a minister, but all along I was drawing and school signs, T-shirts, and people were like, "You missed your calling." I'm like, "Wait a minute, what do you mean I missed my calling?"
You know, thanks. You didn't like my sermon. Is that what you're trying to tell me?
Yeah, exactly. But I was a minister for about 5 years in Indiana, and but then I became a type 1 diabetic, and I had no insurance. I was just preaching at small churches.
Right.
No insurance, no benefit, anything like that. I realized I had a family. I needed, you know, a little bit more security. So I ended up shifting and going into graphic design. So
basically you used your natural abilities that you were able to develop on your own to get into a professional career.
That was the thing I looked at. I'm like, okay, what else can I do? And I realized, you know, all along I've been doing, well, when I was a minister, I published a couple of comic books. You know, it was just kind of they weren't religious at all. And I always developed all the curriculum. You know, I wrote lessons every week. I wrote their Bible study courses, things like that. So I just looked at what can I do, applied everywhere, landed a job at the Courier Journal. So
have you ever thought about doing, because I think about this all the time, but I'm thinking about it, but I haven't done it yet, but like doing either Bible story adaptations, or whether in graphic novel form or illustrated, you know, book form, or things like that, stuff that would go right directly to the Christian market. Have you thought about that? Have you? I mean, what are your feelings on that?
Sergio does such a great job with that.
He's cornered the market. He's cornered the market.
I know he doesn't. He's got the whole market. Now I actually, one of the books I published years ago, before I came to Pennsylvania, was a thing called Weast Illustrated Verse. And what I did, I'd gone through a breakup. I'd been married 21 years. My wife moved on to greener pastures, whatever. And my son had left to join the Marines, and I was there all by myself trying to figure out how do I encourage myself, and that's when I decided, okay, I'll draw a verse out of the Bible every night, and so I started doing that,
Mhm.
and I just kept doing it every night. I illustrate a Bible verse, and so at the end of the year, I put together a book called 365 Days We Still Illustrate a Verse, and did it through Amazon. And but then after that, my life stabilized. I just kept on doing the verses. I didn't really want to monetize it. So
Right.
even today I do it. In fact, if you looked at a shelf, I can show you over here. All those boxes are full of illustrations.
Well,
It's over about a dozen, 13 years. So I do it, but I just kind of do it for myself.
that's really interesting. I have a friend who's a character designer in animation, and Chris Ayers, and he had leukemia, and he got, he's cancer free at the moment, and but sort of to celebrate life, he started doing like these little character drawings. Some of them are funny animal stuff, some of them are little creatures he created, whatever. And he would do one every single day. And then at the end of that year, he put a book together called The Daily Zoo. And he's done like 5 of those, now since that. But it's kind of the same thing you were talking about with the, taking a scripture and doing an illustrated thing for it, for, your own sort of personal growth, or, filling a need you have, and then you end up being by the end of the year you got a book you can put together, which is pretty cool.
And that's the way that really goes back to the writing. I mean, that's how I tackled the novel. And one thing that helped was COVID, because all of a sudden I would commute 2 hours a day, 1 hour to work, 1 hour back, and all of a sudden I was working from home, so I had 2 hours extra a day,
Mhm.
and so that really helped. And best time to write was still right now is like when I'm mowing. I just turn off everything else and just kind of think, while I'm going back and forth, and then I, plan out what I want to do, and then just try to type up a page or two.
Well,
I don't try to be a hero. Just, I can do a page.
Yeah.
That's a page.
Well, I'm glad I'm not the only one who does that, because my daughter just asked me the other day. She's like, "How do you sit on an airplane for 2.5 hours and not watch a movie or just sit there?" And I go, "Because there's stuff going on up here all the time. That's why." So I'm figuring out the story for my next project, or trying to fix a story element in my current project, or it's just, yeah, it's an interesting phenomenon that when your mind is like that, and you're always seem to be working on the next idea or the current idea, and refining it. And I'm constantly rewriting. In fact, on Wraith of God 3, I'm about 40 pages into it right now, and I just rewrote a scene like 2 days ago. Because you catch yourself sometimes. I'm sure you did on a book the magnitude of what you just finished. Is you go, wait a minute, for some reason that you hadn't thought about it, and then it just clicks one day or one night. You're like, that doesn't make any sense. They wouldn't do that. How do I just did I compromised my character to get him from here to here. Now I got to go back and fix that so it actually makes more sense. And
Yeah.
that happens to
Yeah,
me
there's
all
always that temptation. Yeah, when I get in the worst troubles, like with this novel, when I got stuck, it was because I tried to force the character to do something that he would never do or she would never do.
Mhm.
And then when I backed up and thought about their motivation, then that just opened it up. Yeah.
Yeah, it's easy how, I mean, a lot of people are like, figure out your characters first and then write the story around those characters. I'm very kind of George Lucas in the sense that I come up with these stories, these plots, right? And then I figure out who my characters are and how they're going to work in that. And then that's what kind of drives the plot in whatever direction it ends up going. So I don't know if that's working backwards, but it's working different than a lot of people I talk to. But it also, you find yourself a lot of times taking your characters and putting in contrivances in your story to make sure your character gets over here. And then, but you always, at least with me, I always end up catching it and going, that doesn't work. I got to go back and get him there the way that he would, as this character would actually get there, instead of just placing him in that situation. So
It seems like it'd be more painful for you though, because you'll have drawn it out potentially.
Well, most of the time, if I catch something, it's right when I'm drawing that page, and I'll go, yeah. Because when you start seeing it, you go, it doesn't really work, does it? And you go back in and save it. But a lot of times it's scenes that haven't come up yet, that I haven't drawn yet, that'll just like I said, the scene that I just had was like, wait a minute, why are they doing this at night? They don't have to do this at night. It'd be much safer in the day. Why are they doing it at night? So then I have to come up with a reason why they're actually doing it at night, instead of just having them do it. So
Yeah,
dumb little things like that, but they make a difference, And,
yeah, that makes all the difference. Yeah.
Okay, so I want to look at now. These are paintings from you behind you. These are paintings from this project.
Yeah. In fact, if people search on YouTube, it's not been viewed more than 30 times probably, but I do have a video that goes through every all 14 paintings, just a little trailer, and it'll also explain a little bit more about the story. But yeah, these are the actual oil paintings. I just got them framed about a couple of weeks, well, I guess about a month ago, because they've been in a show. I have a friend who has a gallery, and they put it in a show. Yeah, I got a couple more people interested in the book as a result. So that's kind of my plan going forward: is take a picture, go to a bookstore, go to a gallery, and just keep trying to sell these, push them.
Are you trying to set up like store signings at bookstores? I mean, there's not a lot of bookstores floating around anymore like there used to be, but
yeah, there's a place. There's one place that being new to this market, trying to get into an actual bookstore, the indie bookstore in Pennsylvania anyway is pretty robust. We've got a lot of indie stores and really friendly people. One required you actually sit through, and they teach you a class. It's called Cupboard Maker Books, and it's down the road for me. But they are very supportive of local artists. I mean, well, I guess local writers, and they had about a dozen writers at this class I attended, and they just walked you through how to present yourself, and what they look for, in a writer, and that wants to do signings. And so I did that, and afterwards they contacted me. They said they do want me to do a signing in the fall, and they'd also like to launch my book if I wanted them to. And so I'm like, I'm all for it, man. So as soon as the Indiegogo campaign ends, then there'll be a formal launch party at this indie bookstore. And I'm hoping, just to keep on. This will be my side gig on Wicked stuff, is doing indie.
Well, when I did Fantastical Creatures, I had an opportunity. We have Powell's Books here in Portland is like the world's largest new and used bookstore. And they were like, hey, do you want to set up a signing at Powell's? But I was so deathly afraid that no one would show up that I didn't want to humiliate myself. So I said, nah, I'm not going to do a signing, because I'd done enough comic book store signings where nobody showed up. It was like, I said, I don't need this kind of but I didn't look at it like, oh, this might be a way to sell a few books, because you're going to run across people that maybe you're not going to have a line out the door, but people are going to come by your table and say, hey, what are you selling? What is this? And you might, So, but I chickened out.
A friend of mine who has a gallery, he told me, the gallery's name's Brain Vessel. It's a wild name, but I love beautiful art in this place. If you're ever in Hershey, Pennsylvania, check out Brain Vessel. But this fella who owns it told me, you never know who you're going to run into. You never know who you're going to meet, and that really is the truth.
It is.
They had me do a plein air. They actually have 3 stores. One's located at the Pennsylvania Renaissance Fair. And so they had me come and do a demo of my oil painting technique there at their building during the Ren Fair. And that's the way it was. I mean, it's just amazing the people you meet. I just had a blast.
I always run into, it's comic book conventions. You expect to run into some form of celebrity at some level at those places. So it's not all that unusual that I have, but It is interesting when you do that stuff, the people you do come in contact with. Now, you just mentioned you did a demo of your oil painting. Where did you learn to oil paint? I assume you're self-taught, but certainly you must have had influences or certain books that you looked at that kind of
Yeah.
help you develop a style and approach.
I wish I was upstairs. Upstairs, I've got, a huge shelf just full of, my wife and I, we both just collect, art books. Yeah, going back, really, I mean, back in college, I started out, and I think I've seen you with colored pencil. I started out with
Mhm.
colored pencil because it seemed the most um, accessible to me. It made sense. It
It's
wasn't,
easiest to control, right? Because you're
yeah,
used to
yeah,
drawing
control.
with a pencil, and
Yeah.
so yeah.
Yeah, and then I just wasn't happy. I I think on the graybeards has been mentioned about the reproduction. I try to make prints. I'm like, this is not working, especially back then. So
It looks so smooth to your eye, and then you scan it, and it's nothing but coarse pencil lines, and it's like,
it's like,
what?
what
That's
happened?
not what it looks like,
Yeah.
but it's true.
So then I taught myself. Well, I took a class. There's a place that had offered class, and I took a watercolor class for a couple of nights, felt like I had the hang of it, and then just went my way doing
Mhm.
portraits with watercolors. And I was real happy with watercolors until I wanted to start trying to do book covers. And then it was too loose for everybody. It was just like they didn't like the style. So I thought, okay, I got to tie it up, and it needs to be, the color needs to be more vibrant. So I decided to start doing acrylics. Again, the mess for oils, and plus I had a son running around. I just didn't
Right.
want that. So I did acrylics, but I didn't really consider myself, you know, I didn't realize how much I even didn't know until I went to Illustrator Master Class. And I think I mentioned in the email that gave me, it just opened my eyes, where you had dedicated professionals to painting, and they took so much time and care with their stuff. You had, the instructors were Greg Manchez, Boris Vallejo, Julie Bell, and the list just goes on and on. And when I saw these were the instructors, I was working at Bloomsburg University, and they let me go on a personal growth thing. And so I'm like, sold that. And
Yeah.
so I went, and best week of my life, I think. I
bet.
mean, I was sitting there painting, and over my shoulder was Julie Bell and Boris Vallejo painting, and it was blowing my
Yeah, I
mind.
would imagine.
I didn't realize what I didn't know. And the thing, what's funny is it's so simple in a way, is that they all really focused in on your thumbnails to begin with. Like Mike Mignola was the guest that year when I went, and everybody did thumbnails of their paintings for like the first 2 days, and you put them up on a wall, and then it got ripped apart by everybody. So you put your thumbnail up there, and Mike Mignola would critique it. My mind was just, my reality was being shattered. But
Well, I mean, it is true. If you do not have a good drawing, I don't care how good of a painter you are, it's still going to suck.
yeah,
But if you have a good drawing, you can be a mediocre painting and still
Yeah.
pull off something that's acceptable because the drawing's there.
and they all took it so serious. Any colleague I ever worked with, even the artists that, fellow designers, did not take it as serious like that thumbnail. I mean, they were all just so into it and making
Mhm.
such, um, uh, they knew what they were doing, and they painted from the morning well into the night, midnight. They're still going. I just couldn't believe it. But that, and then also tonal value. And
Yes.
that's really what Greg Manchez just over and over, tonal value.
That was the thing that opened my eyes. I had an art instructor, a painter in this area, and he had gone to Art Center, and so he would teach these painting classes, and so I would go to these seminars all the time with him. We became pretty good friends, but just understanding that you got to have control of your values, and you don't use color to establish your values, because that will throw you off. Because red seems like it's a light color, but it isn't. It's a dark color, and so we went through all these things of doing monochromatic paintings and then putting color in over the top. And we learned, the masters techniques for how they did it. And then, the wet on wet techniques and dry brush and all these different things, different approaches. And it was always frustrating to me because my instructor, they would never tell you how to paint, at least the ones I had. They were like, that's up to you to decide. What I'm here is to teach you the fundamentals, right? Color, value, temperature, these type of things. And then how you apply the paint is how you apply the paint as you get used to the medium and understand how it works. But I always wanted to paint by numbers, put the blue here first and then the yellow and do
That's
this.
what Greg Manches always kids that he paints by numbers. Because when you look at the way he paints, it's different than a lot of people. He'll go from he'll have it drawn out and he'll work from one corner across. It's strange. Well, I do more like in the old Boris Vallejo books where you have the sepia undertone and then you do your color under that, because I like to have, I need it. I can't see the tones that well. I've got to work it all out before I apply color.
Well, it's so valuable to do color thumbnails, so you know what your color scheme is before you've explored it on this little small area, and you can see what's working, what isn't. Then you make a decision, and then you go for it, and it makes it go a lot smoother than just sitting there trying to wing it and make it up as you go along.
Yeah, I work with a real limited palette, and that's James Gurney's an influence on that. But yeah, no more than like 5 colors and maybe 4 with a special color. And that's the way all these were painted. It's just, 5 colors, but you can make anything.
Let me run this video. Sorry, I got to share the right. This is the one. Okay, let's take a look at your video here real quick. You hear that?
Hobgoblins are not real. They are things of legends, myths, and fairy tales. And that's what Peter and Andrew would have told you too, before they met A. Nubbins. But now as one brother is drawn into a Stygian underground world, the other must turn to outside help and ancient lore for answers. Can he solve the mystery of A. Nubbins before he loses his brother forever? Inspired by the classic art of N.C. Wyeth and stories by C.S. Lewis, The Mystery of A. Nubbins is an original tale featuring 14 oil paintings and 31 pen and ink illustrations. 5 years in the making. With your support, we'll soon launch it into the world.
That's my buddy Carlin Trammell doing the voice work. We've worked on projects together.
It's nice to have somebody that I'm pixelating here. What the heck?
Yeah.
Hang on a second. Let me see here. Yeah, I think running that video pixelated me for some reason.
Oh.
I love StreamYard. It's always messing me up. But anyway, this looks really, really cool. I wanted to let everybody know that there's a link in the description of this video that'll take you right to this Indiegogo campaign. You guys, encourage you to back this. It looks really, really nice. And it's going to be cool to actually have, like you talked about earlier, an illustrated book that you did. I mean, I remember freaking out when I did my Creatures book, because I'd been doing comics for years, but I'd never really had a book. When you hold that book in your hand, you're like, that's pretty cool. So
yeah. Well, I really appreciate it. The tiers there. One of the tiers is an oil painting. So I'm doing commissions. I've got 4 slots because I know I can handle that, and I can get a painting done, for someone before Christmas that way. So there's one tier you can have whatever character, as long as it's family friendly. It could be you, it could be a superhero, it could be your pet, it could be your car, whatever. I'll do a single subject oil painting, and then you also get a bespoke book with a remark on the inside. I'll draw a little sketch on the inside front cover, and so get all that for $4.95. So
fantastic.
I love I started out as a portrait artist, so I always like doing it.
Well, this, again, I think this really looks sharp. Obviously your design skills are quite evidenced here, and I think the book looks terrific.
Thanks, man.
I want to thank you for coming on and sharing it with us. This is really, really cool. And it's an unusual project that we don't, in this community, we're usually looking at graphic novels, but to see an illustrated book, I mean, this is the kind of stuff. If you said, Aaron, what would you really like to do? I'd rather do illustrated books like this where I can do, single illustrations for different special points during the book. And I don't know if you saw, Mark Schultz did, and Gary Gianni did as well. They did some Robert E. Howard books that were very, this was 15 years ago now, maybe. And I can't remember the name of the publisher, but it was very boutique-y, and they were super expensive because they were low print runs.
I just saw someone reviewing those. I want to get my hands on them. Yeah, I mean, yeah.
They're like Solomon Kane, and then there was a Conan series, and Gary Gianni did the Solomon Kane book, and Schultz did the Conan thing, and they were great. Had these little spot illustrations in them on these color oil paintings, and it was just.
Yeah, I just became aware of those like a week ago. It's so funny.
Yeah. No. So anyway, I'm glad to see someone is still doing this and keeping the tradition alive. And
absolutely
inspire me, Bill, to do likewise here.
We'll hold hands and jump off that cliff together, man.
Here we go. All right. Hey, Bill, thank you very much. We will continue to spread the good word on your book, and good luck with it. And we'll see you not too far down the road, I'm sure.
Thanks. Appreciate the time.
Okay. Thanks, Bill. All righty. That was Bill Wiest. I want you guys to spread the love about Bill's illustrated book. It's nice talking to him. Looks like something really, really cool. So we want to get out there and support our own if we can. Speaking of which, take a moment, if I may, and it's my show, so I guess I may. Some of you may be aware of the fact that I have a graphic novel up on Indiegogo right now. In fact, I was just referring to it in our conversation with Bill. It's called Wraith of God, Fear Hollow. This is Wraith of God number 3. This is the third graphic novel in a series. Kind of a Batman of the Old West, master of disguise, master of illusion. Is he on a mission from God or not? He's helped by his trusted associate Esther, who's a former Salvation Army worker, who he sort of manipulated into being his partner, and they go across the Midwest of 1883, well, actually the whole United States, and fight monsters and send them back to hell where they belong. So anyway, in this particular chapter, they're facing off with the Headless Horseman, who is a character that the Wraith in his youth came across. So we get a little backstory. We get a little bit more origin elements, if you will. Some more villains behind the scenes that haven't quite shown themselves to the Wraith yet. A lot of good stuff going on in this book. You got 4 cover options, beginning with this one. This is what we call cover A, which features the Headless Horseman there and a nice little pumpkin. We've got the cover B, which is the EC tribute cover, EC comics from the 50s, the horror comics from the 50s. Option C is the Wraith of God, Fear Hollow, Marvel 1972 tribute cover, when Marvel was doing those great box covers. Or at least I thought they were great. I love them. Obviously, if I didn't, I wouldn't keep doing them. But there you go. And then, of course, Chris Stevens, super popular cover artist in the mainstream world. Also a really good dude. And got him to do a painted cover for this as well. So there's your 4 cover options. If it were me, I'd get all 4, but I understand, there's budgetary concerns. So at least get one of them. Here's a little bit of the art from the interior, colored by our own Jason Wright's doing a terrific job on this book. I would show you more, but gosh darn it, I don't want to spoil it. So anyway, we have stretch goals attached to this at $40,000, which you've already hit. We get the Loprestiverse retro editorial page, very similar to a Marvel bulletin page from the 70s. And you also get not a Marvel value stamp, but an Empire Comics value stamp, which are much more valuable. This is Garbage Man, and this is the stamp. It'll be full color, of course. It will appear on that editorial page. You also are going to get a trading card of Sculpture from the nightclub. I have the drawing of her done. I haven't inked it yet, but I will be getting that this week, and hopefully get my daughter to go in here and flat colors for me on these two so we can get them colored up. You can see those. When we hit 80, and we are knocking at the door of 80 right now, as we are at 79.69, and that will add the next stretch goal, which is another trading card featuring Trunk, who's the big elephant dude from the nightclub, which he first appeared in the backup story, the nightclub backup story in Wraith of God 2 Blood Hunters. If you don't have that, you know what? You can get it on my website, or you can order it through this campaign. You can also get Wraith of God Nouveau print, signed and numbered, limited to 500. You can get a copy of Wraith of God Roughs Volume 3, which is the layouts, 48 pages of layouts to the graphic novel, as signed and numbered. You can get the shot glass. We've done Garbage Man, we've done Wraith of God, we've done Kit Carter, and now we're doing the nightclub. So the shot glass collection continues. You don't want to miss those. Laser etched, so it doesn't like wash off like a screen printing might. You've got this set of poker chips. I kind of dig this. I wanted to do a huge set of poker chips, but they're so freaking expensive. I figured no one's going to buy 100 poker chips. So we just did with a commemorative set of 3. You got the Wraith Esther, and then of course Keon's Werewolf. And then of course Wraith of God 1 second printing with a new cover, and Wraith of God 2 Blood Hunters with the award-winning wraparound cover, both covers by me. Now, if you're saying, okay, Aaron, these are great, but I really want that Bisley cover from Wraith of God 2, or I really want that Tomb of Dracula tribute cover, well, you can go to my website and you can get them right there. And you will find a link in the description of this video that will take you to this campaign, but also to my website. And there it is. The official Aaron Lopresti website. You got a link here. It takes you to Wraith of God 3 Fear Hollow. You can go to the store and buy stuff. You can go read about what's cooking at Empire Comics, or you can just look at artwork in my portfolio page. So there's all sorts of good stuff there. In the store, I always like to bring this up real quickly. You can get all the books, Kit Carter included, Garbage Man, Power Cubed. If you go up here to this little link right there where it says store, you can get all products, prints, books, merchandise. So it's categorized like that. So if you wanted to say, well, what kind of prints is Aaron selling? Well, there you go. There they are. All of them come signed. Some of them are limited edition signed and numbered. If you're interested in what books that I have, as you can see, I've got all the covers still available for Wraith of God 2 Blood Hunters. I've got the Kit Carter books available. There's Power Cubed, Garbage Man, Saved from the Trash is a sketchbook, the Kit Carter sketchbook. Again, other variant covers from Wraith of God Blood Hunters. We have a few of the Kit Carter Planet Doom ash cans from San Diego this past year. And if you want to get the price guides that I did the covers for, the Overstreet price guides, I do have some copies of those as well. And then, of course, you can go up here to the art for sale and go to the different categories. A lot of the sketches you see me do on Graybeard Studio, they end up here. And if you're interested in pages, there's some Kit Carter stuff in here. There's some Swamp Thing, a lot of Justice League. And then just some illustrations that I've done, color stuff, all available here as well. So there you go. All the Aaron Lopresti that you need is right there in the description of this video. Links to my website and to the Wraith of God 3 campaign. All righty. Sounds wonderful, and it is. So, Curious Potato says the 3 investigators there. Boy, you bring up a book like that, and everybody's like, I read those. They were great books. Jay Dredd says, we need some more Garbage Man and Kit Carter. Well, we got to get through Wraith of God first before we do anything else. I would like to do more Garbage Man because I have the Garbage Man story sitting here. I'm just not sure that I can launch it as its own book. I'm just not sure. So anyway. All righty. So as I mentioned earlier at the beginning of the show, I do spend a little bit of time watching movies. Now, I'm always usually getting them after the fact. So unless it's something really, really good that I got to go see in the theater, I'll usually wait till it comes up. And one of the things I recently watched, which is really old, but Superman 2, the Donner Cut. I didn't even know there was one. I mean, I knew the story, right? I knew that part of the second film Donner had directed and he got canned, and Richard Lester was brought in to finish the project, but I didn't really understand the dynamic. Well, now I do. Excuse me. So Richard Donner was filming Superman 1 and Superman 2 at the same time. And they were getting to a point where they were afraid that he wouldn't finish Superman 1 on time. They were over budget, all these things, and that are typical of Hollywood, especially blockbusters or potential blockbuster movies. So they had him quit working on 2 simultaneously and just go and make sure he finished 1. And which he did. Then he got in more conflict with the producers, ended up getting fired, and then Richard Lester was brought in. Now, it's a much more complicated story than that, but the interesting thing I found out was that the way they were shooting it was like they would shoot the Daily Bugle scenes from the first movie. And then so they didn't have to tear the set down. They would then film all the Daily Bugle scenes from the second movie. So they wouldn't have to redress the set and do all this kind of stuff. So this was a major, major undertaking. It was crazy. And so he finished 75% of the second film before he was told, just finish the first one. Leave the second one alone, finish the first one. And as a result of that happening, there was with the Salkinds, who were the ones who produced it. And I didn't really know this at the time, but they went and licensed Superman from Warner Brothers, and they were paying for this movie themselves because they wanted most of the profits. What they wanted was a campy, probably would have been a very stupid Superman movie. But Donner had a different vision for it. And so he was reworking it. And as tongue-in-cheek as a lot of that movie is, it was still way more serious, Donner's version, than what they were doing, what the Salkinds wanted. And it was also, and this really ticks me off, when you take a big budget property and you try to do it on a shoestring, why are you even doing it? But this was apparently the Salkinds' mindset, was what they wanted this movie to be shot fast and cheap, and so they could maximize their profits instead of actually trying to make a good movie, understanding that if you're going to tell me I can believe a man could fly, I better believe it when I see the movie. So Donner was very much a stickler on the special effects and making sure that this movie was really good and looked really good. And so that's where he got himself in trouble with the producers. And so interestingly enough, they had already shot, like I said, 75% of the second film. Okay. So they had shot the part where, why don't I just bring this up and we can take a look. Okay, this is from Cut Superman 2, Lester versus Donner. This is a pretty good video. It's, about 45 minutes long. You can check it out on YouTube. But let me zip ahead real far here so we can, let's see, where is it? Where is it? Now, I don't know if they have a clip in here of it or not, but where Superman flies around the Earth and makes it go back in time. Now, that's famously how the first one ended, right? Well, here's the issue. They had shot that already, but the Salkinds weren't sure that the first one was going to make any money to even warrant a sequel. And because the budget had ballooned to a point where they were scared to death that it could flop. So they didn't want to waste that special effects shot of Superman flying around the Earth, turning it back in time to save Lois. So they took that, which was supposed to be the end of the second film, and then used it for the ending of the first film. And then they said they would figure out how to end the second one later, because they did not want that shot to get wasted because they spent a ton of money on it. So that's how it ended up being the end of the first movie, when it was really planned on being the end of the second movie. So that begs the question, well, Lois died at the end of the first one. Well, not in the original script. She was supposed to be saved by Superman. And then we were supposed to have a cliffhanger where the three, Zod and, the rest of the gang, are freed from the negative zone, or wherever it was. And that was supposed to be like this cliffhanger that led into the second movie. So interestingly enough, when they canned Richard Donner, they had all this stuff, okay? All this extra footage that he had shot. And one of the problems was this dude right there, good old Marlon Brando. They had shot this opening sequence of Superman 2 where he sends the villains into prison, right? And in Brando's contract, he would have got paid, it was like 11%. It was just ungodly amount of money of the box office. And the Salkinds, being cheap as they were, did not want to pay Brando. So they totally had Richard Lester reshoot all these scenes so Brando's not in the shots. So it's basically the same sequence, but Brando is not in the film because they didn't want to pay him. So this opening sequence right here, I think they do a split screen here someplace. Let's take a look here. Here we go. So side by side, you can see, and we'll get to that in a second. So you have the voices of the judges and everything condemning these guys, but there's no Brando, there's no Jor-El. And of course, this shot with him walking away and Zod yelling at him that you'll kneel before me and my heirs will kneel before you. They don't have this shot. They couldn't use it because they didn't want to pay Brando, even though it had already been shot. The other thing that's interesting is all the scenes. Let's get here. Okay. So when Lex Luthor goes to his ice palace, okay, with Miss Tessmacher, in the theatrical release, they see his mom, and they also see this random bald guy from Krypton talking to them, right? In the Donner version, it's actually Brando. But again, they couldn't use Brando. Or they wouldn't use him. I shouldn't say they couldn't because they didn't want to pay him. So they got this guy instead. And this is even a bigger point. In the Lester version, remember, he's talking to his mom here about giving up his powers because he just, He's in love with Lois, and he's going to return himself human, which is something I never really understood that anyway. Why do you have to quit being Superman just to have a relationship with Lois Lane? It didn't really make sense to me. But anyway, but in the Donner version, he's not talking to his mom. He's talking to Brando, baby. And once again, they had to cut this entire scene. Now look how Lois Lane is dressed differently. She's in a Superman t-shirt and socks standing in the snow. So here he is talking to Brando about, I'm in love with her and I want to give up my powers and live as a human. And Brando's trying to talk him out of it. And he won't budge. He wants to do it. So he's saying, oh, there's no turning back, son. He looks up at Lois in her cute little Superman t-shirt. Of course, not knowing the whole time that Lois only loves him because he is Superman, but Now look at this. Look at Brando gives her the side eye. And she I love this right here. When he's given up his powers. Okay, and remember the part where they refaced the Mount Rushmore? Well, in the Donner version, they took out the Washington Monument. And this is the Lester version, of course, where they but in the original version, it was the Washington Monument. So there's quite a bit of difference in this. This is nice too. Here's a scene where he goes back and finds the green thing or whatever, the glow stick. I do like that part right there where Christopher Reeve turns and yells, "Father." I just thought it was kind of dramatic. So let's watch that again here. That's Lex Luthor doing his shtick. Now, the thing is, there's no difference between the Gene Hackman scenes, or very little, in both movies. Because when Donner got fired, Gene Hackman refused to come back on the film. And so any things that were extra shots with Gene Hackman had to be, they had a double, and then even a voice actor come in and try and do Hackman's voice on a couple of short bits of dialogue. And it's pretty amazing. But anyway, I love this shot right here of Lester's shot where he yells out "Father" and kind of turns. It's kind of dramatic right there. Yeah, like that. But anyway, you've got, Donner's down here where he's yelling the same thing, right? So then what happens in Lester's version? The green stick never got put back in the base, so it didn't get destroyed. Now, in the Donner version, it was in that burned out mess, but Brando reactivated it. The spirit of Brando or whatever, or Jor-El, I guess I should say, reactivated it, like giving his son a second chance. Like he knew he was going to screw up at some point and let him learn his lesson. And then, so he goes ahead and puts it back in. Of course, this is the Donner version. And then Brando appears and talks to him, and they have another discussion. So all this Marlon Brando stuff is not in the theatrical release. And this, it helps explain how he got his powers back, because Brando basically tells him that he's going to give him his life force or whatever to, let's see, can we play this without getting busted? I'm going to get busted. So he basically says, this is it. I'm giving you my power. And he goes up, and the Brando what do you want to call them? AI goes up to him, walks over and touches him and puts all this sort of energy back into him, and thus he becomes Superman again. And then we just have the rest of the way, you've got little touches like the big fight scene over the city. Superman gets punched into the Statue of Liberty torch, which isn't in the Lester version. This stuff is all pretty much the same at the end. There is some differences. They don't have the thing where Superman throws like, those vinyl looking things off his chest and it wraps him up, and he disappears, and there's like multiple Supermans and all these weird powers that Superman doesn't have. None of it's in the Donner version. And then, of course, in the Lester version, after everything saves the day, we have the kiss, which makes Lois forget everything, right? Which, again, is not a power Superman has, but he did in this movie, which drove a lot of people, purists like David Williams, out of their mind. But now Donner, he didn't think that Clark Kent should ever kiss Lois Lane. Only Superman should kiss Lois Lane. So he didn't want to do this scene. So that's why they had planned to do the ending where he goes back, circles the earth, and makes time go back, and solves that problem. So no one remembers. And of course, then he goes and beats up the thug in the diner. Now, this is interesting here. When they get through with taking care of the Zod and his gang, Superman walks over here and destroys the ice fortress, this fortress of solitude. He destroys it because basically all the gizmo in there has been destroyed, and he can't ever talk to his dad again and everything like that. Sacrifice he had to be for Superman. I'm not sure that he needed to destroy it, but he does. And of course, that's not in the second version. And yeah. And there's some other stuff in there. There was really an interesting scene where they kill this kid when they're in that small town. Zod and his group kill this kid who's trying to ride away on a horseback to get help. They kill him. And they thought, oh, that's too dark. We're not going to use that. So anyway, there's different things like oh, there's the thing right there that I was looking for. And I just lost it again. Yeah, right there. That, of course, is Superman going back and spinning around the globe, flying around the globe to make it go back in time. So they had that shot finished, and they didn't want to potentially waste it by not using it in Superman 2, just in case there wasn't Superman 2. So they made it the ending of Superman 1, which is fine because it made it super dramatic. This right here, in order to make the scene work, whether at the Newlyweds Retreat at Niagara Falls, Lois doesn't throw herself in the water in Donner's version, and then Superman has to figure out a way to save her without revealing his identity. She jumps out the window earlier in the movie to force Clark to save her, but he figures out a way to save her without revealing his identity, right? So it's a completely different thing. So then you still have this scene where she has to figure out that he's Superman. So they use this scene that was just shot for screen test for both of them. And so they had to work this into the footage of the Donner cut, which is really doesn't work great. I mean, the scene's okay, but just the way it looks and the so this is actually, this scene right here is the screen test, and they worked that into the final. Aaron, do you remember the thug in the bar? I don't. So anyway, what does all this mean? Well, I sat there and watched this movie, and it's kind of like you got the argument. Well, who's better? Is it the Lester version, which still uses quite a bit of Donner's footage because they had to use all the Gene Hackman stuff, or the Donner version? Okay, I think Donner's vision was better, but because they assembled it, they had like 75% of the footage that Donner had shot. But that still leaves 25% of that movie that still needed to be completed. So in the Donner cut, they used some of Lester's stuff, and because they had to, and then they put together a couple of pieces of stuff, like they had to use the screen test footage, which is not ideal. And you can tell by the edits and stuff, the film works, but it's a little choppy in spots. It doesn't flow as seamlessly as the Lester version, or the combo version, I guess, the one that was released in the theaters. So going through all of this, I still like the theatrical version better, even though there's some stuff in there, because Lester put in goofy humor that Donner didn't have in there. And there's enough of that in there already in Donner's version that Lester, just like the guy getting blown over while he's on the telephone and keeps talking on the phone while while Zod and his crew are, blasting them with super breath and blowing everything all, and he's still on the phone yapping away. It was like, you look at that scene and you go, why is that even in here? I mean, it was just slapstick, So there's a few things like that probably should have been left out. And in the Donner's cut, there's a few scenes that could have been trimmed a little bit, because anytime you do a director's cut, they're going to be self-indulgent to a point where they're going to include stuff they probably shouldn't. And there's a little bit of that in the Donner cut. But I think his overall vision, and I love the stuff with Brando in it because it helps the movie make more sense. But I still think if you're just going to take the films as assembled on their merit, not what they could have been, but what they actually are, I think you got to take the original theatrical release of Superman 2 as the better of the two films. So there you go. And yes, I agree with Art of Roy that Margot Kidder never looked so good as she did in this movie. But I also thought she made a good Lois Lane. I thought the casting was great. The interesting thing about the Salkinds, going back to the producers, for guys that were so cheap and so budget conscious, which I'm not saying that's bad. I mean, you've got to be to a certain extent. But why do you hire Brando and Gene Hackman, who are two of the most expensive actors in Hollywood at the time? Brando set a record for how much he got paid for this. And it's like, if you're on you don't invest in this all-star cast and then cheap out on the rest of the film. If you go into it like that, you just, but they didn't want to borrow money from Warner Brothers or take money from Warner Brothers because that would cut into their profits, right? So they put themselves in a position where they really were doing a movie they couldn't afford to do. And then they got a director, Donner, who was very meticulous and very particular about what he wanted and how he wanted it to look. And so that cost them more money because of the special effects, that he wouldn't let the crappy special effects go. They wanted crappy special effects because it would have been cheaper, but he would not allow it. And so for a couple of guys, the Salkinds, that were trying to produce essentially a mid-budget superhero movie, they did a lot of dumb things, and then it came back to bite them. I mean, if you're gonna spend that kind of money on Brando and Hackman, then you better spend money on the whole thing. So I don't know. It's very strange how that whole thing worked out, and I know Donner was very bitter about it. But Geek Easy says Sarah Douglas was much hotter than Margot Kidder. Yeah, depends on the lighting. Interesting thing about Sarah Douglas, they dubbed her voice because her voice wasn't gruff enough or mean enough, her actual voice. And so the gal, I can't remember her name, she was in Superman 3. But she did the voice work over the top of Sarah Douglas in Superman 2. So because her voice needed to be harsher. Lois on the Train. Wasn't that was that in the first one? I thought that was in the first movie. I don't know. Okay. Oh, I see. No, she only looked good on that screen test. I don't know. Yeah, I mean, I wasn't in love with her or anything, but I did like her attitude. I thought she had the right attitude for Lois Lane. So it's just me. All righty. So there you go. Those are my thoughts on the Donner cut. If you haven't seen it, I would recommend doing it because it's stunning how much of Donner's film did not get used in the theatrical release. I didn't realize it was that much stuff that went unused. But because Lester could not get directing credit unless he directed over half the film, they had to go back and reshoot scenes so that he could get the directing credit. And I think there's a little give and take. I think Lester made some good decisions. So, and I think he made some bad decisions. I think Donner made some bad decisions, but he also made a lot of good decisions. So anyway, there you go. We've been over it. That's how I feel. And there you go. So now let's take a look at something I just picked up. I was going to switch cameras, but I'm not going to do it. This is like a cheapy purchase, but okay. Doctor Strange 22. Why did I get this? Let me tell you why. It's Rudy Nebre's art. Pretty nice splash page, right? But this is why I got it. For 2 pages of art right here. Look at that dragon, that pterodactyl dragon thing. Are you kidding me? That's the only reason I got this, is so I could look at these pages. I would buy either one of these originals if I could find them anyplace for sale. Just because I like that dragon. That's it. That's it. He's not in the rest of the issue. I mean, there's some nice work in here by Nebres. I mean, look at this. This is really nice looking stuff. I wonder how much these guys were getting a page back then. And no royalties. Why would anyone want to work in comics? There's a lot of groovy stuff. Oh my gosh. Has that 1970s newsstand smell to it. Like that close up there of Doctor Strange is pretty cool with that lighting effect. So yeah, Nebres did a run on Doctor Strange that was pretty good. But I had to have those 2 pages of that flying dinosaur thing. So I bought it. And so those of you who think I only buy graded books and never look at the comics I buy, wrong. I just proved you wrong. All righty. That was a quick one, but I had to get that in. Who knows what I will buy next, but let's do this real quick too before we get to our videos. As I pointed out earlier, I've got a lot of the sketches and stuff I do on Graybeards are just for recreational purposes up on my webpage, but some of them, not all of them, are up there. Like, look at these 2 companion pieces. I didn't even mean them to be companion pieces, but I put them in the portfolio next to each other, and I went, oh, look. Yeah, so it's the Grinch smoking and it's George Jetson. Separated at birth? Maybe. Of course, I put a lot more time into George than I did that Grinch drawing, but you should spend some more time coloring up that Grinch. But yeah, George Jetson blasting that heater, man. Look at him. Pissed off. That's actually not what I wanted to show you, but since it was there, I thought I would. I love this Man-Thing piece right there, but there it sits. I haven't sold it yet, but it's a nice one. Okay, so many of you probably saw this. I did this Captain America piece, just some kind of messing around, and did this, oops, here. Obviously, that's Captain America. That's the Green Goblin, so it probably wasn't confusing to anybody, but so that's all colored pencil. I was just noodling around, and it's not all color. I mean, I inked it, and then there's a warm gray marker I use as the outline there. But anyway, so I got contacted by a couple people that wanted to buy it. So the first guy that contacted me, I said, yeah, okay, it's yours. So I sold it to him. Well, the second guy goes, well, if you do another one, I'll pay you the same. So I said, okay. So I did another one. And yeah, so I did 2 Captain Americas this weekend, and both of them flew right out the door. I actually kind of like the second one a little bit better. I don't know. Maybe not. Depends on what you like. It's like animation. So anyway, next on the agenda, of course, is finishing up this, which is going to be Poison Ivy. So I'm working on that right now. Of course, that'll be for sale. It'll be full color. And then, of course, you guys remember this from Graybeards. This is the Hulk that I'll be sending to Dan Lawless to ink. And we'll see what he does with it. So there you go. So that, folks, is what's sitting in my flat files. Actually, they're on top of the desk, but you get the idea. Captain Bitbo says, oh, now doing with him smoking. Captain America's smoking. That, it would be hilarious, but come on. Cap doesn't smoke because he'd send the wrong message to the kids. Freaka Boogie says that Hulk is incredible. Get it? You know, where is it? I got that Hulk too. All full color Joker. This is what I do it for my spare time and recreational, you know? Let's do drawing. I draw for a living and I draw for recreation. I'm the most boring person alive, and it's true. And I do watch Superman 2 every once in a while. Okay. It's been a very eventful show, but we're not done yet because I have to take you on a video journey that will only frustrate you as it does me every week. I got a bunch this week too. Now these just aren't Bigfoot. We're going all over cryptid land this week. Journey with me now. There is actually some truth in that statement. Journey with me now to the waters of North Carolina. And what are we seeing here? I love how they have like the short little video, but then they just like they flip it and run it the different direction to make it seem like they have more footage than they actually have. This looks fake to me. It may not be, but it looks fake. However, there's some follow-up footage here, right here, that actually I think looks real. But I thought, they said this was in North Carolina, but it seems to me this was in Florida, and I think people were thinking it was a manatee. I don't really recognize the tail. But this is pretty interesting stuff. I mean, I think it's clearly real. The question is, what is it? It's pretty big. But I'm guessing it's probably a manatee in it. And they said it was in North Carolina, but I bet it isn't. I bet it's in Florida. Because you know what? I don't know if you guys know this or not, but people on the internet, they lie. Like I said, I think this looks a little fake to me. Randy Hall saying that's a fishtail. Yeah, but what kind of fish? That's a pretty big fish. Heat Miser says, looks like a manatee. That's what I think it probably is. Probably Crystal River. Okay. Would there be manatees in North Carolina, or do you think they're just lying that this is actually a Florida video? Eric Boyd saying, no way. No way what? Are you doubting what you're seeing with your own eyes? I am. I mean, I do think it's real. I think the second one is real. I think the one that was really light blue, I question whether or not that's actually real footage. But okay, now some people will try and convince you that dinosaurs still walked the earth, and a lot of those people live in the Congo. Now you tell me. Do dinosaurs still walk the earth? Oh, wait a minute. Oh, right there. Did you see it? Did you see it? Oh, there's a whole pack of them. Did you see it? Okay, let's go back. Right there. And then they disappear. Like, what kind of a... Okay, you can see the tail. Right there, and the eyes and the tail, and then they zip this thing over and they're like gone. So it's like some pretty creative cutting. Okay, so here we go in slow-mo. Okay, there's your dinosaur right there. There's your velociraptor in the Congo, allegedly. There's his tail. And then there's a moving branch right there, but I don't see any dinosaurs. I don't even know what's going on. What they're attempting to convince us that we just saw, because I don't see any. Oh, there they are, right there. So you got one of them going this way, right, coming in right over here. Don't be afraid. There he is. Okay. Now they're going to come back the other way, a bunch of them, because they're obviously lost, so they don't know where they're at. So, I mean, clearly they have a dinosaur problem in the Congo, or someone is making good use of his home editing program and AI program. Cardboard cutout AI. Curious Potato says manatees are peaceful. They don't behave like that. Well, so now there's controversy in the chat about the whatever we just saw, that maybe it's not a manatee. Too aggressive to be a manatee. What could it be? A big old fish, but what kind? Anyway, so raptors in the Congo. I don't think so. All right, now here's a little Bigfoot for you in the snow, which is a great place to find Bigfoot, I'm told. As you can see him here, he's right here. Let's see what he does. He moves in slow motion, which I think is pretty cool. I'm not sure what is going on right there. What is that? Is that his hand? What is that? I think that's his head, right? And then his arm, but he has a short little arm. Look at that. What is that? And then he walks off in pixelated fashion. Of course, right behind the tree, so we can't see him. You can see his arms dangling out this side there. Green Laser's onto something. I like this. It says that is a pack of velociraptors out searching for Bigfoot. Randy Howell escaped from the Wuhan lab. Randy Howell says, Aaron, instead of looking for Kelsey in the woods, check the local liquor stores. Now maybe you're onto something. Now, wait a minute. Captain Bitpo, it's a bison raying up on its hind legs. Do you think? Headless Bourgeoisie says there might be rappers in Congo, but no raptors. Now, I like that theory. It's a bison. Let's check this, because that head is like super big, like bison big. Let's take a look again at this. Okay, provided this whole thing isn't fake, I could buy into this bison theory. Although right here, it's a little, not sure, because you got something sticking out here, then something sticking out there, those arms, or is it just the hair? That is really interesting. No horns, though. But man, that looks like that could be a bison head right there, doesn't it? Rearing. Okay. Pastmaster Dan says, didn't think to go over and get photos of the footprints. That's suspect. Yeah. Oh, I see. It's a bison rising up on its hind legs. Yeah. We might be onto something here. This could be finding bison. This might be a good show, because I think we may have found one. All right, this. I should have saved this for last, because this is the money one. This is one you'll be telling your friends about. All right, so are these guys like capturing aliens, or these skinwalkers, or are they rakes? Let's watch. Oh, boy. All right, I want to point out something that... I mean, I know this is a pretty exciting video. We'll let it run through, and then I will... I'm not sure. Okay. All right. First of all, let's take a look at what's going on here. Okay, it appears that they started the video and told the guy, okay, run. All right. But here's the thing. Boom. What is that? Oh, you know what that is? That is wrinkles in the dude's rubber suit that he's wearing. Oh my gosh. That was the first thing I saw, was wrinkles in the guy's rubber suit. Or maybe it's not even a dude in there. Maybe it's just a mannequin or something. Although the hand is flopping around like it might be real. Let's see if we can see anything on the face. Doesn't look like it. I don't see anything going on the face here, but I do see wrinkles right there. And he looks like he has tape on his foot. That's a clear sign that it's an alien. They don't have shoes in space, but they do tape their feet to protect them when they walk on Earth. Randy Howell says that's his underwear peeking through the body sock. Is that a body sock, though? I mean, it looks so shiny. Makes me wonder. Maybe it is, though. Maybe that's what it is. Jago says those are sex dolls they stole from the factory at night. Freakaboogie, maybe alien skin is like Earth rubber. Maybe it is. Maybe it is. Nighttime fireman rescue training, says Captain Bitpo. I don't know, but look at these guys. Look at the guys in the background. Okay. They're not dressed like firemen. How would you like to be one of these four guys, right? And you post this in the video. Now, the other three guys you can't really see, but this dude, like, if that was me doing this, you would know that's me. And so are their friends making fun of him right now for posting this? You might have had me if you left the tape off the foot and the wrinkles in the costume. I might have enjoyed this more. Actually, probably I wouldn't have enjoyed it more. I'd probably enjoy it less without the goofy foul-ups. Indeed, why does the guy in the back have a garbage bag? What are their plans for these guys? Kikizi, you've never worn tape on your feet? Amateur. Legs, pantyhose. All right, well, that's some classic alien stuff right there. If I've ever seen it, but I know you're saying, well, Aaron, there can't possibly be more. I'm saying, yeah, well, actually there is. All right. Okay, so now I'm not calling out Creative Faye. I don't even know if she's in the chat right now, but somebody named April posted this. And now, why the trees and the grass seem to be in pretty good focus, and yet our little alien or rake or skinwalker is all blurry. Now it appears we can see his package here, but it looks like he may have a package right. Looks like we can see his package here, but it looks like he may have one here as well. This is stunning evidence of alien invasion, I think. Now, this would support, of course, the theory that, see, I don't believe in aliens because there's no way any being could travel for as far away as they'd have to travel to come to Earth. I mean, it'd take lifetimes. It's absurd. But if they're interdimensional travelers, he would be phasing in and phasing out right here. And that's why he's blurry. Now you're asking me if that's Jed. You mean from Night of the Living Jed? Sorry, I didn't see this one sooner. Please don't tell me this leads to a scene from Deliverance. Of course, he's talking about the guys hauling off the alien guys. He's from the blurry dimension. Well, it's not, we talked about this earlier on this. I mean, not on this episode, but on previous shows where Bigfoot is an interdimensional being. That's why he's always phasing in and out of our reality. So that's why he's always blurry. I guess that sort of makes sense, right? Hellraiser is saying, no, those are his sensor nodules. Okay. Well, Hellraiser seems to know about that stuff. I don't sensor nodules. David D says the moon is hollow and it's filled with lizard people. No, the lizard people live underground in Utah. That everybody knew that. We're going to have to do a show on the lizard people. Honestly, I didn't know anything about the lizard people until Tom Rainey, yes, the comic book artist Tom Rainey, told me about it at a DC conference many years ago. It's kind of like the pumpkin heads. I just recently discovered, the melon heads. I recently discovered the melon heads. And I don't know, maybe 10 years ago, 15 years ago, where I first learned, probably 10 years ago, that I first learned about the lizard people living underground in Utah. Well, keep your doors and your windows locked, people. That's all I can say. Should we take a look at something? Whenever I show something really astonishing that's real, it's amazing that it's in focus. But here we go. This is Henry, the 120-year-old crocodile. What do I got? Just a screenshot? Oh, there it is. I'm sorry. Being dumb. Look at Henry. He's 16 and a half feet long, like 7,000 some pounds. And he's in captivity. I don't know where they got him at, but he's the oldest croc in captivity, 120 plus years old. I don't know how they know this, but I'll take their word for it. So they say about sharks, right? The great white sharks keep growing. They never stop growing. So the longer they live, the bigger they're going to get. I don't know if that's true of crocs or not. If he's 120 years old and he's, 16 and a half feet long, my guess is he's probably maxed out. But I don't know how long these guys, I don't know how these guys, how long they live. I mean, I guess they're probably like turtles, right? They just freaking live forever. But look at that. Man. Talk about dinosaurs. Guys worried about raptors in the Congo. This is right there in the Nile, man. No, thank you. How big do you think his head is? I wonder if I could get how much do you think it would cost me to get like a stuffed crocodile head? That's probably illegal, isn't it? Own that. I'd have one of these things for a pet if I knew it wouldn't eat me, but no guarantees. So I'm going to keep my distance, but man, these things are cool. So anyway, there you go. Henry, the oldest known crocodile in captivity. All right. Now take a look at this. If you're doing construction work in Brazil, yeah, no thanks. This is are you ready? This is the head right here. This is a 33-foot long python. Are you freaking kidding me? According to the story, they were blasting in some rock walls, I guess, put in a highway, whatever. And they got this thing out of one of the caves. Are you freaking kidding? Look at that. It says it's like a meter in diameter. 33 feet long. And they chained it down. I don't know. It's got to be dead, obviously. but I guess they didn't want to take any chances. I hate it when they keep flipping the camera like that, but you get the idea. I once caught a fish this big. Yeah, can you seriously? 33 feet long. I wish there was a guy standing there so we could see how big the snake's head is compared to the dude. Well, Kellraiser, going back to the alligator or the crocodile thing about having a crocodile head. Well, the thing is, it's like, I know they do that with alligators. I don't know. Do they eat crocs? I mean, alligators used to be protected, but they're not anymore. It's like, it's like elk season down there in the southern part of this country. They got so many gators, they have to have hunting season to keep population under control. So you can get alligator heads. I've got one sitting back here. But a crocodile head, though, I don't know. I don't know if that would be considered like poaching or something. Send him to the Congo to deal with the velociraptors. Now we are on to something. $800, give or take. What are we talking about? The cost of a... Now, look at... I'll tell you this right now. I got my alligator head... you can't see it. Let me move this rack. See him there? Right here. I paid $150 for that back in man, it's a while ago. I think it was pre-cross-gen, so it was a while ago. And so like 2000, 1999, somewhere in that neighborhood. In a gift shop in New Orleans. Now it's about this big. They had one that was like this big, and it was $600. So to get like 6 inches bigger alligator head cost me like $450 more. Now, if it had been like $300, I would have done it. But $600, I was like, dude, you're talking about a half a foot, and you're going to charge me $450 more. So I would, and that was 20 years ago, maybe. I would guess that if I could get a croc head that was like this big, it would cost me thousands, would be my guess. If it's gettable. I don't even know if it is. No, something to ponder. Well, I've got a small alligator, head like that. Those are cheap, $20 or whatever, but the big ones cost money. Sean Ellis says, depends on what you want it stuffed with. Okay. All right, everybody. That is going to do the show for this Memorial Day weekend. I know a lot of people are busy and not here, but I want to thank you guys for showing up and being here regardless. Because like I say around these hallowed halls, the show must go on. And so here we are. I'll be back next week, of course. But in the meantime, I'm going to a comic book show, a local comic book show on Saturday. So will I have something to share? We'll find out. Graybeards this week. We were going to have Jeff Johnson on, but he had to postpone till the following week. So we're going to have our good friend Karan Stone is going to come on. Karan Kaiser Stone will be joining us to fill in for him. And so you don't want to miss that. I have no idea what we're drawing, but you'll see a poll posted on Twitter, on Twitter, or on X. Make sure you vote on that. Help us narrow down what we're going to be drawing. So anyway, lots of good stuff. Professionals on Tuesday. Comicsgate Kings Monday night. Will I be drawing or will I not be drawing? I don't know. We will see how much work I get done later this evening and all that good stuff. So thank you all very much for joining me. I thank you for the super chats. Thank you for the commentary. Appreciate your time spent with me. And we'll see you next time right here on Aaron Live. Good night, everybody.